Aries friends, this week Mars will be squaring Neptune from an angular house, your fourth house. So home and family life this week might involve some kind of unspoken resentment that's bubbling to the surface. Or there might be some unclear boundaries or people failing to live up to their promises in your family or domestic environment. You might find yourself doing more than your share within the family, martyring yourself for everybody else, or perhaps dealing with passive-aggressive behaviour at home. You might even discover that the peaceful domestic situation you've been hoping for isn't quite what you thought it was. These are just some of the ways that Mars square to Neptune can express. Forewarned, forearmed about that, and I'm going to tell you more in this video about how you can prepare for this week and navigate it to your best advantage. This is a video forecast for your sun, moon, or rising sign. You can check out all 3 videos and they will tell you how the stars are going to affect your life this week. I'm Ksenia, my friends, and welcome to the Astro News and Weather Report for the 3rd week of August 2026. This is tropical Vedic astrology that I will be using, not sidereal astrology. Look it up if you need to find out about it. And yes, I am a real person, not AI. Don't forget, if you don't want to listen to the information about how the skies will affect us all this week, then you can use the timestamps to skip to your zodiac sign forecast. And now for something you'll really like. Well, hello everybody. I'm so glad you could join us today. Do we have some news for you? I'm here today with my husband, David Warner Matheson, and we are going to be hosting the most amazing astrology retreat and astronomy retreat in the High Sierras at Lake Tahoe. Dave, do you want to tell us a little bit about this?
Well, thanks, Ksenia. Really great to join your audience, and the event is called Stars Over Tahoe. It will be in the last weekend of September 25th, 26th, and 27th. That's a Friday evening, then Saturday and Sunday at a beautiful resort in Lake Tahoe. It's really gorgeous. A stunning and special part of the state of California and Nevada and part of the country, and the energy there is just fabulous, and it's a beautiful time of year. And not only that, great stargazing. Go ahead.
Awesome stargazing. So one of the things that we're offering at this retreat is some stargazing tours hosted by Dave. Dave, do you want to just fill us in about what that might involve?
Well, in addition to, during the day, we'll be having presentations about astrology.
Oh yeah, you're going to learn how to read your charts in deeper, more dynamic ways. I've got some great topics to talk about with you. Dave will be sharing about mythology.
And how it's based on the stars, the different stories and characters. And then at night, the glorious mountain air and high altitude will give us a beautiful view of the stars, weather permitting, of course, but at the end of September is one of the best times for stargazing in the Tahoe area. We should see the gorgeous Milky Way arching overhead, and I'll be pointing out the constellations using a laser pointer, many of which you may have never been able to recognize before. You know, a lot of people who know about astrology may know the characteristics associated with Scorpio or Sagittarius, but may have never been able to find them in the sky. So I'll be pointing out some of the zodiac constellations that will be visible, but as well as the band of the zodiac, the other stars all the way up to the dome of the night sky at the North Star and the Big Dipper. Most of us know the Big Dipper and Orion, and that's it, because we never get taught this. We never get taught how to find them. So I'll assist with that.
That's awesome, because it's actually so important. There's a branch of astrology called visual astrology that works mostly based on what is going on visually in the heavens, which is very different than what we see on the astrology map. So being able to sit under the skies and know what you're looking at is actually very, very important to really flesh out your capabilities if you're interested in becoming an astrologer. So this is a really exciting experience that we're offering. Plus, of course, we also have the immersion in the Sierra environment with the pine forests and the beautiful panoramic views, and obviously the gorgeous mountain air and lovely lake itself. Such an unforgettable backdrop, which I'm really excited to experience with you all. We're also going to be having some didgeridoo and sound bath sessions, which will be very very wonderful because it's an energetic reset. That's what these instruments are designed to do. So we will be doing some little adventures that settle our nervous system, because we all live such stressful lives these days. It's hard to switch off and just immerse ourselves in the beauty and restorative qualities of nature. So we really want to support people in doing that as a part of this retreat. And of course, the retreat centre has a lot of nice things like saunas and day spas and all that nice stuff as well.
And in addition to the structured activities, we'll also have plenty of time just to mingle and spend time with Ksenia. If you've never met her in person, spend time with me. And we'll be having meals together, beautiful meals. And it's just going to be a chance to meet new friends and have a wonderful retreat, stars over Tahoe, in one of the most beautiful parts of the world.
So I'm very excited about this. I know we have some great plans for what's going to happen, and we hope you can join us. I've been astounded at how quickly things are booking up already. This is a curated group. It's not like a conference where there's just, everyone can come. So we do have limits on the amount of people, because we want to be able to interact with everybody and form friendships with everybody and create community with everybody who comes. So with that in mind, there are limited spots. So do make sure that you get in early so you don't miss out, and we don't want anyone to be disappointed. So we hope to see you at Stars Over Tahoe, and we look forward to sharing a really magnificent experience with each and every one of you. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks so much. See you soon.
See you soon. Thank you to Ksenia and Dave for that one. Now, on the 17th of August this week, we're going to have Mars making a square aspect to Neptune. Now, I would say this is the most important aspect forming this week, although do keep in mind that we are actually still in the eclipse gateway phase of eclipse season. We're coming up to the lunar or full moon eclipse. So the eclipses are actually the most powerful manifestors of this week's energy. Mars square Neptune will just be secondary. I hope you all got to enjoy the individual 20-minute solar eclipse forecasts that I did for your specific sign, so that you know what's going to be unfolding for you in the next 6 months of your life. I was so excited by what I saw for almost every single sign that this eclipse was bringing you. If you missed the forecast, you can use the link in the description below to catch yourself up with what's going to unfold because of the recent solar eclipse, and get ready for the new lunar eclipse videos that will be coming out in the week ahead. But now, Mars square Neptune on the 17th. This is an energy that stirs up in us very strong desires that really, really want to be expressed, especially if those desires are related to Neptunian themes of unconditional love, soulmate connections, compassion, being a spiritual warrior for the good, and tapping into your creative intuition. You want love, and you want it now. Mars energy wants to make it happen. Or you hunger to fight for a compassionate cause and nothing's going to stop you. This is the positive expression of Mars in a square to Neptune. But it is a hard aspect, obviously, and therefore it is not without challenge. Neptune is often associated with scandal. So be sure that your passions and your actions don't lead you into the murky depths of gossip, ruined reputations, hurt and disappointment. And if you see those things unfolding in your life, you'll know exactly where they're coming from. So keep calm, seek to be as rational as possible during this time, avoid being salacious, and cling to your faith in the goodness of the universe, and you'll get through this time with aplomb. So in a nutshell, let's have a look at what Mars square Neptune can bring us. Well, we can have trouble filling our desires. We want the desires, but they're eluding us in some way. We're perhaps feeling some intense and very idealistic cravings, but we might be limited in how we can take action around them. We might feel insecure or too timid. Mars energy is somehow thwarted. You might use indirect or underhanded means to obtain what you want now. Mars usually likes things straightforward and straight up, but Neptune brings some fog into just going directly for things. You might be very straightforward in your dealings with others and choose to leave what's unsaid or the rest in the hands of God. That's another way this energy can express. Success and accomplishment, they're not really favoured this week because of this aspect. This aspect only forms about once a year, but it is a time when moving ahead, accomplishing our entrepreneurial dreams and goals can be a little bit held back by Neptune's mistiness. So it's not really associated with great success unless you're looking for success and forward momentum in a Neptunian field. Creativity, art, music, poetry, things like that. We also need to be very, very careful of deception and fraud and trickery. We need to be very careful about being exploited by our peers and associates in the week ahead. And women especially need to be very careful. If you're going out to a party, make sure somebody accompanies you home, or that you drive yourself home or something like that. Don't walk home in the dark, that kind of thing. I hate saying that, but it's just the world we live in, isn't it? Women need to be extra careful this week and guard against assault or the onslaught of perverted people. Unfortunately, they're everywhere. Romantic dealings may bring out some disappointment and depression as well this week, because Neptune is this romantic idealism and Mars is this anger, and they're joining in a rather unfriendly square. Sometimes also we can't distinguish between a fantasy lover and a real love when we experience Mars and Neptune square. So that's something to be careful of if you've just met somebody, or you're just moving out in the dating scene. Be extra cautious and careful. We can also find that our sexual fantasies are really heightened now. So if you're in a loving relationship, that could actually serve you very well. You could have a lot of fun. Also, sexual restraint and caution can disappear. Just back to what I was talking about earlier, try, if that's the way you're feeling, more uninhibited, more power to you. Just be really cautious and careful about who and where and when you exhibit that with. You can also feel a lot more experimental with Mars in a square to Neptune. This is the planet of high-level love expressions, Neptune, with passion and sexual expression. And we want to try a few things out. So enjoy. Energy can be a bit laggy though. We can feel really frail or really tired and worn out. That's very annoying to me because I've just managed to get myself into a new exercise routine, and the last thing I want is to feel too exhausted to be able to make the most of it. But it's only for the week, folks, and then it'll dissipate as the separation of these two planets squaring each other occurs. So hang in there. Also, be a little bit wary of poisons and toxins and unnatural substances. Keep things as organic as possible. Nourish your blood. Mars is the blood, with green leafy vegetables and iron-rich foods this week, lest you feel more drained, and that, Neptune can sort of act a bit like the South Node sometimes and drain our energy. Also, avoid drugs and alcohol. Neptune is drugs and alcohol. Mars in medical astrology is to do with inflammation. And sometimes, if we have some drugs or alcohol, it mightn't go well with us under this square, and we can find our body getting inflamed as a result, or heated or something as a result. That in mind, I know sometimes we can't avoid it. And as I said, it's eclipse season. That's the major energy this week. So don't be too panicky about what I'm going to say. But really, it's not a good week to schedule surgery when Mars, which is the planet of cutting, it's the planet associated with surgery, is in a difficult aspect to Neptune. Things can be a bit misty and clouded for the surgeon operating on you and not quite clear enough. We can also find that if you're seeing a specialist, correct diagnosis of problems can be very difficult under this energy. Now, I often get, when I share some negative influences of planetary energy, I often get people commenting in the comments saying it's very wrong of me to cause fear in people and to scare people. Well, that's a legitimate comment, I guess, but, we all lap up the good vibes of each planetary interaction, and we take that on board. Please consider when I share some things that are perhaps a little bit on the scary decide that we just need to proceed with caution and care. Make sure the surgeon or the professional diagnosing us actually is fully alert and, haven't come back from a big long lunch with a few glasses of wine or something. We need to take precautions during this time. And so I share these types of things not to scare you, but to forewarn you and forearm you to help you make good decisions for your life. Now, there can be illusions and deceptions that come from medical practitioners now, which Neptune is sometimes associated with, particularly pharmacists, etc. So do your own due diligence. Do your own research around the medications that you're taking or the treatment that you're getting, and really dig deep so that you're not deluded, you're not deceived. We can also be a little bit more susceptible to infections with this square, and there might be a little bit longer recuperation time required from any procedures, etc. We also need to be very cautious in our dealings with the police and the military and mechanics. They're careers that are ruled by the planet Mars, and of course Neptune making a square can make things, dealings with the police or the military or mechanics a little bit obscured, a little bit unclear. We take our car into the mechanic, he tells us what we need, and we're like, what? That doesn't make sense, I'm not understanding why I need to, I came in to get my tires replaced and you're telling me I've got to replace the carburetor or something. So be very careful and cautious and do your due diligence and research yourself with regard to your dealings with the police and the military and mechanics. But in the plus side, and there is always a plus side with all aspects, you're going to be more inspired and more imaginative if you are a creative artist. You might produce great music or paintings or poetry or work on film. Just recently I've been feeling like, I need to get back into my sewing. I need to get back into painting, which is something that I love to do. And that inspiration has been sort of sitting with me for a few days now. It would be a great energy to take action, Mars, around those artistic endeavors under this influence this week. We should also be careful in a personal way with our interactions with others in taking on other people's problems and expending enormous amounts of energy rescuing them, helping them, or supporting them. In other words, martyring ourselves and, blowing our vitality and our energy and our enthusiasm, Mars stuff, on giving away to people who don't deserve it, really. Be very careful about martyring yourself. We can also feel very drained by relationships. But let me clarify the kind of relationships where one person is continually giving, and the other person is just taking. So Mars square to Neptune can just absolutely leave us exhausted if we're in a relationship like that. So they're just a few of the expressions of this energy. Remember, it's not the major energy this week. We are in eclipse season, but you might notice some little snippets of this energy unfolding around you in your life. Now let's take a look at how this is going to play out through your sign. Aries friends, well, as you can see on the screen, there is rather an important square forming this week, and it's forming between Mars and Neptune. Mars happens to be in your 4th house, and this is where you're going to feel this expressing more than anything. Mars here, it can already stir things up a bit domestically, Mars can bring sort of more energy into your home life, more vitality into your domestic life. You want to get out in the garden and get digging and make that garden bed ready for autumn or spring. You want to do stuff in the home environment. So it stirs things up. It gets us active in 4th house areas. But the square to Neptune that's happening on the 17th of August can make whatever situation you're dealing with domestically a lot harder to get a clear handle on. Let's explore some of the ways that may manifest. You might suddenly want to change something about your home. Like I said, you might want a brand new garden bed ready for the new season that's coming in. You might be planning to move. You might be thinking this week, I'm sick to death of this old rat trap. I'm out of here. Let me start looking for a rental. Let me start making a change. You might want to renovate. I'm sick of this purple wall. It's time that I painted it something. Maybe I'm going to get some funky new wallpaper. I want to change the way things are in my domestic sphere. Mars wants to take action. You might want to clear something out. out, to reorganize. Or you might want to confront a domestic problem with the people that you share your most intimate life with. That can be a partner, excuse me, or it can even be children and family members. You might want to make some changes in these areas, but because of the Neptune square, you might discover that the practical circumstances to do this are not as straightforward as you thought they would be. You decide that you want to put up that beautiful funky new wallpaper, you head on down to where you buy the wallpaper from and you look through all the samples and nothing's there that you really, feel drawn to, that you really, want to colour your room with. It's not gonna work out for you in the immediate week ahead, immediate future. Or maybe you want to confront a domestic problem and you just can't get a hold of that person that you need to talk to or explain something to because they're in and out and running around and, you're like ships in the night passing one another. So being able to deal with that pile of dirty socks in the corner just doesn't eventuate. Or to address somebody about their moldy, bread in the fridge or whatever it happens to be. You can't confront somebody about the domestic problem because the practical circumstances are not presenting themselves. Neptune keeps things at bay. So family members can also become a bit of a source of frustration as well, because this is the house of family members. It's the house of our parents, as well as our role as a parent. And anyone we share our intimate life with, not our life out there in the big wide world, but our home sphere with. So family members might become a source of frustration through some sort of vague promises or indirect behaviour. Maybe your son's running out the door to go to basketball practice or something, and you're like, be home for dinner at 6 o'clock, because we're having this for dinner and it'll go cold otherwise or whatever. And they're like, yeah, Mum, no worries, I'll see you then. And it's really vague. They don't arrive home on time and it's frustrating you because the beautiful dinner you cooked, maybe you're celebrating something or whatever, it goes cold and they're not home from, the basketball practice at 6 o'clock like they said they would be. Vague promises are one of the ways this energy can manifest this week. Or somebody says that they're going to help with something around the house or in the home and they don't. Simple as that. I mean, these are very ordinary, everyday ways that life plays out. Very familiar. It's nothing sort of out of the box, really. But this is where it's coming from this week, this square from Neptune to Mars. You might find that somebody is actually purposely avoiding a difficult conversation with you, Resentments might emerge through some sort of passive-aggressive behaviour rather than a direct confrontation as well. But knowing where it's coming from, and in fact knowing that it might manifest like this, is part of a superpower you can apply. When you understand, okay, they've made me a vague promise as they run out the door that they're going to be home for dinner on time. You know what? I know what the energy this week is all about. And therefore, I'm not going to be too perturbed if they don't get back home in time from basketball practice and they're out hanging out with their friends having pizza instead of home eating dinner. I'm not going to worry too much or let it frustrate me because I know why. It's the energy of this week. It's not that their behaviour is purposely annoying, they're doing it on purpose to annoy me. It's not that, this is their usual character. It is the energy of the week. Keep that in mind. It will help you navigate some of these more difficult circumstances that are just niggly and annoying. There can be situations this week, my beautiful Aries friends, that involve property or repairs or domestic responsibilities where something's not quite what it initially appeared to be. Maybe you had, somebody come and pave your driveway and the repairs or the driveway, creation costs more than you expected it would, more than they quoted you. That can happen. Maybe a property issue turns out to be more complicated than you thought it was. You're going to build an extension on the back of the house. Yay, it's going to be fantastic. Oh my God, you discover there's an easement there and you can't build over it. What the hell? What are you going to do? These sorts of things, property issues that get complicated, or an agreement concerning your home proves to be somewhat ambiguous. These sorts of things are what can rear their ugly head this week. Remember also, my Aries friends, that the fourth house is the house of emotion. So emotionally, this transit can create a really strong desire to escape from a really uncomfortable domestic situation. I want you to just, if that's you and that comment that I've just made really resonates with you, this might be very useful information, knowing that this is an energy that you're experiencing, and ask yourself, do I always feel this strong desire to get away from this domestic situation? Then you'll know it's more than just this energy, and it's probably more likely to be an eclipse triggering something for you. But really, if this should come up for you out of the blue, you've never felt this way before, but you're like, screw this, I'm going to chuck this relationship in, or this domestic situation, I'm out of here. Do take it with a grain of salt this week. It is really worth sitting with it and waiting until Mars begins to separate from the square to Neptune to determine whether you genuinely need to leave or you are simply desperate to get away from a temporary frustration that this energy is causing. In fact, maybe a solution to that might be deciding you're going to go and visit somebody else. There's a domestic situation, it's driving you bonkers. You're like, screw this. I'm going to go and visit my mum and dad and go home for the weekend or something. That might be a way to diffuse the situation of your permanent residence being difficult. But do take things with a grain of salt, as I said, because this energy is a temporary frustration that may not be one going forward in the long term. So friends, watch out for unclear family agreements this week, property misunderstandings, unrealistic expectations about moving or renovating, and acting impulsively because you simply just want peace, as we all do. Bring it on. So just be careful of those things this week. And the best way that you can use this energy to your greatest advantage to make the most of things is to actually address any domestic problems as directly as you can, but also with the awareness that there might be a bit of vagueness and things might not be as straightforward as you want. Also, investigate before making irreversible decisions regarding where you live, who you live with, and what you're doing to your home environment. Take your time, wait for the energy to pass, and you will find that you'll come with a better outcome on the other side if you can apply a bit of patience in this circumstance. Thank you, my beautiful friends.